Coming up on First at 4, water is coming back to many homes in Everett, but why do folks there keep losing it? We'll talk to officials about what's causing the problem and how they're working to fix it. And new video shows the impact of an airstrike near Gaza's border overnight.
Plus, the forecast remains calm in the short term, but possibly a few rain chances later this week. Those details coming up as Mountain News First at 4 starts now.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News First at 4.
Good afternoon, I'm Steve Hensley. First at 4, after the rain over the weekend, folks in the city of Everett were once again without water. WYMT's Olivia Calfee is at the water plant with more on why this continues to occur.
This water plant serves over 1,200 people in the Everett community, and time again, folks have found themselves without that crucial resource. But what I learned today is the demand for water has grown over the years to be much more than what it was originally created to serve when it was built in the 90s. City officials have worked to find a solution. However, as Harlan County Judge Executive Dan Mosley explains, that solution doesn't work whenever we receive heavy amounts of rain like we saw over the weekend.
The city of Everett sought out to get an emergency permit to pump from the Clover Fork River. The river source helped to be able to do that. And it all works fine until there is a heavy rain event or there's high water. Because that plant was never designed to treat muddy water, they have to pull the pumps and not pump from that river.
And that is what happened this weekend, causing several folks to lose water. However, Mosley says officials are working together to find a long-term solution with hopes of finding funding to build a new water plant in the community. But for now, I'm reporting in Harlan County. Olivia Calfee, now back to you.
Olivia, thank you. The Everett's water plant serves more than 1,200 people, and we'll have more about this situation tonight at 6. Kentucky lawmakers will be heading back to Frankfort for the next legislative session just a few weeks after today's second inauguration of Governor Andy Beshear. Beshear and Lieutenant Governor Coleman are again the lone Democrats in a sea of red in Frankfort. The legislature makes up a supermajority of Republicans. Democratic lawmakers say the fact that Governor Beshear won the election should send a message that a majority of Kentuckians support some of the things the Democrats have been pushing.
They have to take notice. I mean, with his margin of victory, with the solid support of Kentuckians all over the state behind him, majorities in counties in Western Kentucky.
The General Assembly begins on Tuesday, January 2nd. We'll have more about the inauguration in our next half hour and tonight at 6.
Well, as promised, we are tracking plenty of sunny conditions across the mountains on this Tuesday afternoon. Let's take a live look at beautiful UVA-wise. As you can see, hardly a cloud in the sky, but plenty of blue sky this afternoon. And that current temperature, 43 degrees. That's one of the cooler spots over in Southwest Virginia. Most of us right now in the middle to lower 50s, up to 54 in Somerset, also Monticello, 55 in Manchester, and 51 over in Jackson. So we are close to or even above average in some areas this afternoon. And up on the radar, we are dry, but notice this, we are tracking a cold front that is close to the Ohio River. Now, there is no moisture with that, but that will bring a little bit of some cooler air as we go into your Wednesday, also Thursday. So not as warm, but a few degrees cooler by the middle of this week. But still, some very nice weather is on the way for the middle of the week as well. Your forecast into this evening, also tonight, we are cold once again once the sun sets, back in the middle to lower 30s and a few pockets of upper 20s as you wake up on Wednesday. Notice clouds do increase overnight, all thanks to that cold front. But again, moisture very, very limited. So we are not expecting any rainfall until about Sunday or Monday later on this weekend. Watching out for that next rainmaker. But until then, Steve, plenty of blue sky. Also, sunshine is on the way.
All right, Cameron, thank you. Former Congressman George Santos is scheduled to appear in person today in a New York federal courtroom. The U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of New York revealed yesterday that Santos is presently engaged in plea negotiations. Santos is facing 23 federal criminal charges, claiming he misled donors, fraudulently received unemployment benefits, charged his donors' credit cards without authorization, and more. President Biden said today that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu needs to make changes to his hardline government. Speaking to Democratic donors in Washington, the president also said support for Israel's military campaign is waning amid the heavy bombardment of Gaza. He added, quote, "This is the most conservative government in Israel's history," and said the Israeli government does not want a two-state solution. A man accused of firing a shotgun outside of a New York synagogue last week is now facing federal firearms charges. Prosecutors say 28-year-old Mufid Al-Qadr faces charges of illegally possessing a firearm and making a false statement in order to purchase it. Prosecutors say Al-Qadr got that gun from a friend. Investigators say Al-Qadr opened fire outside Temple Israel in Albany on December 7th. We have new video evidence of the Israel-Hamas war's impact on civilians in Gaza. It was taken just after airstrikes killed at least 22 people overnight in the southern city of Rafah along Gaza's border with Egypt. You can see the desperate search for survivors. Israel says it is targeting Hamas, but as CBS's Charlie Daggett reports, survivors are desperate for help.
In the heavy bombardment reported across Gaza, our colleague Marwan Al-Ghul was lucky to survive another night. He went to the scene earlier this morning of this massive airstrike not more than 500 yards from his house. Officials say at least 10 people were killed. The recent surge in fighting has seen the number of civilian deaths skyrocket and anger soar. Anti-war protesters in the West Bank marched with a 40-foot banner with a growing list of fellow Palestinians killed in Gaza. The message is meant to reach the only nation capable of restraining Israel.
We are against the position of the United States of America while they used veto 2 times.
The U.S. and Israel maintains that a ceasefire would allow Hamas to regroup.
The people that are bombarded in Gaza are mainly the women and civilians and children, and these are not Hamas.
The U.S. has again urged Israel to put a premium on human life. Charlie Daggett, CBS News, Ramallah in the West Bank.
Coming up on First at 4, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky spent time this morning urging lawmakers in the U.S. to provide more funding for the country's war against Russia.
And more fantastic weather is on the way for the rest of the work week. Your First Alert forecast coming up after this break.